The second oldest interface that has been around for a while is the graphical user interface. The first version of the graphical interface was known as WIMP, and it belonged to the first personal computer called Xerox Star, which was only available in research labs. So WIMP stands for Windows, Icons, Menus, and Pointers. Window is basically a section of the screen where the user can execute interactions independently from the rest of the screen. A window can be scrolled, it can be stretched, can be minimized. An icon in the old graphical user interfaces were used to represent certain actions or commands that user could do. So for example, clicking on this calendar icon would open the calendar application. Clicking on the calculator icon would open the calculator application. And then over here we have a printer icon. So in order to use this, user had to drag a file that they wanted to print on top of the printer. Menu referred to the options that the user was able to see on the screen. So as you can see, older user interfaces were really boxy and options were typically provided to the user all on the screen that tend to make the interfaces cluttered. And lastly, P stands for pointer, and the pointer referred to the pointer of the mouse. So although all four of these elements are still present in modern user interfaces, we all know that they have evolved over time. So now windows, icons, menus, and pointers have different formations. So windows were actually invented to overcome the physical constraints of a computer display because the computer display only have a certain amount of real estate, which limits the user in terms of how many kinds of applications they could open on the screen. So it was really important to have a computer display that could support multiple windows. The user can work on 2 or 3 different applications at the same time. And then it was also important to add scroll bars to the windows so more information could be viewed in the same section of the screen. So over time, we know that computers have become more efficient, they have more memory, so which allows the user to open more windows on the screen. Now, this has given rise to a design challenge. And the challenge is that how do we make all the different websites accessible to the user? How can we make it easier for the user to switch between the windows? Because as there are more windows, the navigation is going to be difficult. So one suggestion is, we often see this implemented in today's browsers, is to display the thumbnails of the most recently visited websites. So the user doesn't have to keep all these websites open. Now let's talk about menus. Menus have evolved over time as well. So the old menus just look like these flat lists as shown here that used to appear on the screen, and it used to make the interface really cluttered. So the challenge at that time was how to remove the clutter from the interface. To solve this problem, we came up a lot of different kinds of menus. So let me show you what they are. So the first one is the drop-down menu, which basically opens up a list of options on being clicked. So when I click this button, I see a list of options. Two related menus are pop-up menus and contextual menus. A pop-up menu appears when I perform a certain action. So for example, let's suppose I highlight this portion, the text, and then I right-click my mouse and a related menu shows up. This is a pop-up menu. A more general version of a pop-up menu is a contextual menu. If I right-click anywhere on this page, it opens up another menu, and this is called the contextual menu. provide a more general set of options. The next type of menu is also called the collapsible menu, or it's also known as the accordion, where I can click on the plus sign to see more options or click on the minus sign to collapse. The last type of menu is called the mega menu. So mega menus are, you have probably seen these kinds of menus on e-commerce websites such as Amazon and eBay. So these menus, as you can see, they consist of several columns and several categories. So each column usually represent one category, and all the links, all the options related to that category are listed underneath it. So some design considerations that exist with respect to menus is, first of all, it can become really challenging to identify how to group the items in a menu. For example, for mega menu, because there are so many options, it's possible that some of the menu items, they actually belong to more than one category. And when that happens, it becomes difficult for the user to locate the item that they're interested in finding. Another challenge in designing menus is that sometimes if you have too many options available and the options are too close to each other, it becomes easier for the user to make mistakes. So this correct spacing is really important when you are making menus. And lastly, mega menus are obviously going to be, they are easier to navigate than drop-down menus because they are spread out in two-dimensionally. Drop-down menus, they usually just expand in one dimension. So if you have a lot of options, then think about using mega menus. One of the reasons icons were very successful with graphical user interfaces was that they were easier to learn and remember. They also make the interface look more pleasing, and they are compact and can be placed anywhere on the screen. The icons are now found everywhere, starting from mobile applications to virtual reality applications. They're used to represent either objects, tools, applications, or operations. Since the Xerox Star days, icons have changed in their look and feel. From being black and white, they have now transitioned to icons with colors, shadows, realistic images, 3D rendering, and even animation. Many icons are designed to be very detailed, to make them both visually attractive and informative. They can also be highly inviting and emotionally appealing. When you are designing icons, you can use one of these three techniques. You can make icons to look similar to the objects, applications, or actions or operations that they represent. You can design analogical icons that would either use a metaphor or a simile to explain what they are referring to, or you can just use arbitrary icons. Arbitrary icons are going to be most difficult to use, and you'll probably have to train your users to understand what they mean. The most effective icons are obviously similar, because then the user doesn't have to understand your mental models. The most challenging aspect of designing an icon is that it's not always easy to come up with an icon for everything. For example, there are many operations which it's very difficult to come up with an icon. Besides the form of the icon, you can also have different styles of icons. So over here, we see two different styles of icons. The photo shows icons that are photorealistic and colorful, and they are all slanting to left slightly, whereas icons on the bottom row, they are all straight, they're grayscale, and they have a sketchy feel to them. You can develop other styles of icons as well. Sky is the limit. But make sure that your interface is based on a consistent style of icons. Some other styles of icons that exist are the 2D flat icons that are being used in mobile interfaces these days. They are simple and use strong colors and pictograms or symbols. They are meant to be easily recognizable. And on this side, we see some icons that are extremely simple, and they're basically just showing the outline, no detail. They're usually used in toolbars. There's a wealth of resources available online for creating icons. You can refer to Apple guidelines. It's also a good idea to include text labels alongside icons because they might not, especially if you are using analogical forms or arbitrary forms, then it will be a good idea for you to include text labels. If you don't have enough space on the screen to include text labels, then think about using one of the menu styles. For example, if somebody hovers over an icon, you can show the meaning of that icon in a pop-up menu.